for hanging out. We're about done, can you believe it? Gosh, darn it, just one more after me. So my name is Liberty Black. Most of you do know me, those who don't, you're gonna get to know me. So the way that I got here, and not here as in where I'm at right here standing today, but pretty much in my life, is that I was socialized and normalized around a belief and an idea that John Stuart Mill made famous in a book called On Liberty. You can look at the title of that and probably kind of figure out where I got my name. So what John Stuart Mill says is how you understand something and how you know something is based on your ability to know the opposite of that and to know it well. And to not accept what someone tells you is the opposite, but by learning what that opposite is from the person who actually believes that. So that's my framework that I was socialized in and how I was raised to question and think about everything that I came across in life. So this last quarter I said, I'm going to do this project because I had something just itching at me and I needed to look at it. And the framework that I came up with was that I absolutely had to think outside the box. I had to use a lens of consilience. And it was so important that I was allowing myself to be vulnerable and willing to embrace trade-offs that were going to be necessary if I came across something that conflicted with my beliefs, but proved to be true. And I had to look at using holistic approaches and thinking about cultural competencies and the differences amongst us as human beings, both politically and socially. My project that I did this quarter is based on civic engagement. So as we all learned, thank you, Lucky, Cheryl, and Callie, the way that we approached our research in the first 2 quarters was to make up a question and you know, what are we trying to answer? What are we trying to get to? And then come up with hypotheses, do experiments, fail, learn, repeat. Although most of us didn't get to the repeat part, but I did over and over and over. So since I started the MPA program, I've been on this insane, massive reading spree. And this is just a general idea of what I read in about a week. And some of the books that I read actually week 2 of this quarter. There's one of them up there, might look familiar to people. If not, you need to read this book. It says Government is Us 2.0, and that would be wonderful work by Dr. Cheryl. The literature on civil engagement, oh my gosh, it is so massive, I can't even tell you where to begin with that. Because since the inception of democracy, there's been questions about what is civic engagement? How do we address it? And I had to build these relationships with disciplines outside of public administration in order to build that lens of consilience. That meant I had to go to things I didn't know anything about, like the hard sciences. And then I had to go to stuff that I did know about, like the private business sector, and put those together. And then I had to look at, of course, what do we all know about public administration, but the most important thing is the money. And I had to look at the Department of Education and see how much money were they actually putting out for citizenship education. I think it's kind of interesting to take a look and see the president's budget for 2019. And then go over and look and see what the House and the Senate are appropriating. So it's kind of clear that our Congress finds citizenship education to be important. So as I was studying and looking, I found that my problem that I thought was a problem was problems. Everything I read said voter participation is bad in the United States. Everything said that. Well, when I was born, I was treated to a gift. The USSR launched Sputnik. And when they launched Sputnik, changes happened in this country almost simultaneously overnight with civics education. We switched from a civics education model to a STEM model, and it was all on. to change that. We were not going to let the USSR be stronger than us. So today, the public in the United States says that our schools should prepare students academically. But there's still those grandparents still alive, we're not dead yet, that believe that students should be prepared to be good citizens. And I believe that's why there's only 26% represented in that. It's a sad situation because 24% of high school students are proficient in civics, which means the rest are not. And only 12% are proficient in United States history. American adults, oh gosh, they're so bad on knowledge tests, I don't even know what to tell you about this. So I'm gonna let you watch about this.
But first an ad.
No, stop it. There we go.
She was a woman.
Susan Anthony. Man, if that's not a famous writer or president, I can't call it.
She an author? A writer? No.
She's dead, but she made history.
No.
She made a coin. Women's activist.
She was a women's civil rights leader.
Like, out of the 50 states? Madison Square Garden, I don't know.
Texas.
The Philippines. The Philippines.
Louisiana. Oh, Puerto Rico, sorry.
Puerto Rico. 12.
That's what they find.
4. 24.
10.
9 justices? Yes, 9 justices.
I want to say, but maybe 100.
54.
A lot.
Is that 170? Okay.
Obama and who? I don't know. I know Associated Pay. I don't know. No, wait. Right?
That guy ain't been out of the box since Obama started running, but it's Joe Biden. He been hiding since he won. He been hiding. You gonna see him now again because it's election season, but he been hiding. Joe Biden been hiding.
Clinton's wife? No. I know
It's not Hillary Clinton, right?
the woman.
Can't take it. He's a Republican. And he has gray hair. And he smokes. I can't think of his name.
You don't know these kinds of I know Rockwell. John Mason.
So, when I worked in immigration law, one of the things that was really interesting was how many immigrants knew, almost by rote memory, not what their rights were as United States citizens, but what their responsibilities were. And as I asked people in the past 2 years, do you know what your responsibilities are as a United States citizen? I even asked some of my members in the cohort. I got one answer that was right, and that was to serve on the jury. Do you know what your responsibilities are as a citizen of the United States? Because we're talking about public administration, but are we really even aware of what we're supposed to be doing ourselves as individuals? A citizen of the United States is supposed to stay informed of the issues affecting their community, participate in their local community. Our state doesn't even obey federal laws. If they can't model it, why should we model it? So as I kept looking, I kept finding we had a lot of problems with definitions, because when I would say citizen, there was 20 different ideas about what was a citizen. There's the legal definition of a citizen, someone who is either naturalized or born. But then there's also a citizen, someone who's a resident, who's living in a community. That person could be a juvenile and still be a citizen. It would depend on how you want to define it. And the one thing we've learned is how you define things really means a lot. Gosh, if you thought citizenship was bad, just try civic engagement. What does civic engagement mean? It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Some people, civic engagement means the right to not be engaged. So I asked myself, what's the best way that I can attack this wicked problem of civic participation within the United States? I had a toolbox. And what I could bring was my ability to ask questions and acquire information and appraise that information and then aggregate it and apply it to what I'm trying to reach a solution for and assess whether or not it worked. And then you repeat that, and you repeat that until you get dizzy from repeating that, which led me here to a lot of policy recommendations, to evaluating the legal requirements under federal and state laws, including MPA laws. And then I had to analyze linguistics and frameworks, because just for an example, when you come to Evergreen to talk to you about group work, most people are like, oh God, not a group work. But if I talk to you about team building, that shifts quickly, almost instantly in how you will approach it. I have to use critical thinking rather than being critical about thoughts. Well, that's tough, because we like to take the easy route and criticize thoughts as opposed to critically think. And then I had to use problem solving with System 2 thinking that we learned from Daniel Kahneman in year 1, and come up with some innovation and creation. So I had this really, really bright idea when I talked to Lucky about my project. I was like, I'm gonna write a curriculum for K-12. Well, there's a lot of them already out there, and they're not doing really well. Who am I to do better? So then I said, I'm gonna make these memes, and they're gonna nudge civic involvement. This is jackpot. I downloaded all this software, I learned all this stuff. Well, gosh, some really young, smart millennials did this and failed. And they're better at it than I am. And then I said, I'm gonna create an app. Well, let me tell you, iCivics by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor is probably the best group of apps that are out there I can't compare. And then I had a brighter idea, and I said, I'm going to create a case study of my little hometown in Pulaski, Virginia, and apply it to Tumwater, Washington. Because I've talked about it, if you've heard me in any of the classes talk about my hometown, about this little one-horse town that, gosh, it was dead, and it revitalized, and it come back to life, and they have this community like I've never seen. They just become something that they weren't before. And I thought there's reasons, if we look at it, we can take it and put it everywhere. But then I realized what fits there won't always fit here. What works there doesn't always work here. And so it was dead end after dead end after dead end. But I got to add some tools that were pretty neat to the toolbox. There's great apps. And then I had all these really interesting resources that I was able to pull more tools from. I used nostalgia and misbehaving and nudge to come up with ways that we could use not only psychology, but sociology and economic behavioralism to help reinvigorate our communities so that we can return to a time of where we actually participated in a democratic government. And I had to look at things like predisposed and criminology, criminals in the making, and hard sciences that told me things that I wasn't the most comfortable with hearing. And more tools kept popping up. And so I finally found the best idea of them all, and that was to put it into a book. And so I present you One Nation, a toolbox for civic engagement. These are the chapters of my book. There are 7 of them. I start with history, I go with civics education, and then moral, character, and citizen education all in one. And the righteousness and political polarization talks about how we are as human beings and how we see our own biases and how it plays in the political arena that we're seeing today. And then again, I'll go back to the nudges, misbehaving, and nostalgia, policy recommendations, and resources with a whole bunch of tools that we can use, not only as public administrators, but as citizens, as individuals. And that we can even expand it out to groups, to communities, and to governments. My book will be available digitally on Amazon on June 15, 2019. The print will be available on July the 4th. Have any questions? Send me an email. Thank you for your time.